On May 30th, 2016, we posted the very first episode of DF Retro, a simple 5-minute look at Quake running on Sega Saturn. I made that video over the course of a Saturday afternoon, but it helped launch the retro side of Digital Foundry, which persists to this day with DF Retro. Yet even before we started producing any video-based content on Digital Foundry, I experimented with the concept over on my own YouTube channel. I made a small video simply titled The Port Corner, where I discussed the port of Hexen to Sega Saturn. The voiceover is completely unscripted, but it's one of the first fully voiced videos I had ever made. I can't help but cringe when watching it today, but hey, I wanted to share the origins of DF Retro with you guys, and here it is. So, enjoy! These days, games tend to wind up on the PC and consoles at the same time, and although the PC almost always has a pretty serious advantage, it generally boils down to faster frame rates, better image quality. But during the 90s, simply moving your game from the PC to a console could prove to be an arduous task, and in fact was a task that was not often given to the original developers. Case in point, Hexen for the Sega Saturn. Released in 1997 by Probe Entertainment, Hexen is a pretty faithful port of the PC original. Probe themselves actually got their start back in the 80s, doing mostly ports of games to other lower-powered systems. As such, porting something like Hexen to the Saturn was right in their wheelhouse, yet the results are actually pretty disappointing. For a start, the game was actually based on the beta version of the PC game. And with that comes simplified lighting and map design, which in a way would actually make the game potentially easier to run on the hardware, but it does detract a little bit from the polish of the original PC release. Furthermore, taking a page from the 32X book, the game only supports monsters with the front-facing graphics visible. That means certain situations are actually changed, since you can no longer sneak up on monsters and they can no longer be unaware of your presence. Of course, unlike Doom, this didn't make nearly as much of an appearance in Hexen, so it's not really a big problem. Really though, what's interesting about this port is the fact that it actually runs on the Doom engine, which is a sector-based engine as opposed to the more common 3D polygon engines that we were seeing during that day. And really, as such, it's probably not all that well suited for the Saturn hardware. And in that, we have extremely poor performance. I mean, right out of the gate, we're talking ranges from 30 frames per second all the way down to 5. Just turning the camera around is a pain. But on the positive side, it is actually a fair bit better than the absolutely awful port of Doom by Rage Software. And in fact, in this case, actually features all of the levels. So even with those changes to the level layouts, it is actually fairly complete. Furthermore, we have the original PC music here intact. It all sounds pretty good, and in reality, the PC version originally shipped with both MIDI support and a CD Redbook audio soundtrack, which was recorded from a Roland SC55 sound module, which is how the game's music was originally composed. But overall, the port really isn't that good, and in fact, if you do choose to play it, be sure you have a full RAM cartridge handy, as the game saves are too large for the system's internal memory, meaning that without such a cart, you actually have to play it using passwords, which really only save your progress to each level, and with the hub system in play, it really doesn't work that well, making the game even harder to play. And really, that's the thing. When it comes down to it, Hexen just doesn't hold up as well as its Doom engine brethren. Playing the actual any class in the game just doesn't feel that great to play, And of course, the level design is the real bummer here. They tried to do something more interesting with the hub system, where you would move back and forth between different areas, but in reality, most of the levels are actually just mazes, and they're very enclosed, and they don't feel particularly interesting to explore. And I really think that just drags down the pace of the game. But still, it was a notable release in '95, and as such, just seeing it running on the Saturn is fascinating to me. And next time, perhaps we'll take a look at one of the other ports to the Nintendo 64.